Hello, welcome to Chat ENG, my preview of the Switzerland game. 2 days away from a quarter-final of the European Championships. It's a massive game. I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic about England for some reason. Call it a hunch. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into a few things about Southgate and the mood around the country and build up to the game. Portugal drawing 0-0 with Slovenia put things into a bit of perspective for me, in that we played Slovenia and we drew against them. But also Slovenia are not that dissimilar to our opponents that we played on Sunday, Slovakia, and Portugal required extra time and penalties to beat them. And I think what that tells us is that the smaller countries, so-called smaller countries, are capable. There's no mugs anymore. They can make it difficult for the so-called bigger nations. And maybe we expected to turn up against Slovenia and Slovakia and dominate and play well and win. And it doesn't work like that, and it didn't work like that for Portugal either. So I took some comfort in that, albeit I still maintain England were quite poor, particularly against Slovakia. And we were, of course, very lucky to get through. After the Euro 2020, 21 as it was, a couple of months after, Gareth Southgate, while reflecting on the tournament, said that he thought England's players had, and the whole nation, had expended too much energy in celebrating getting to the final. And that if we want to go one step further, we have to hold something in reserve emotionally, energy-wise, and not let it all out at once like it felt like maybe we did. There was just that big release after the Denmark game. Now, there was a release because we'd not reached a final since 1966. And as an England fan myself, watching that game and that taking in that night, and my older son was out with me watching it, and we're singing and I'm throwing him in the air, and it's history. The players on the pitch celebrating, singing with the fans. These are moments that connect the players to the rest of the nation, and you can't take that away. And we didn't win the tournament, but for me that night was still a really special night as an England fan. That I just won't ever forget that as an England fan. It's as good as it's got for me. So while I understand what Southgate's saying, I think it's understandable there was a big outpouring of emotion. I think his comment, though, is a sneak peek into the mind of the man. Not only is he pragmatic with the way he sets his teams up to play, but he's incredibly measured and calculated and calm and pragmatic as a person. And I think it gives us an indicator of maybe there could be some method to the madness that we've seen from England so far in this tournament, in that I believe, in a very misguided way, Southgate perhaps is setting this team up to pace itself, that he doesn't want them to peak too early, that he doesn't want them to expend too much emotion. And what you're seeing is what we are seeing, which is flat, turgid performances, which goes too far the other way. In this tournament, after the Serbia game, he said he felt we expended too much emotional energy in the first half an hour. There's a balance to be had here. I could be completely wrong with my hypothesis. I don't think I am. I think there's an element of, I keep hearing, it's tournament football. We have to pay. We're not saying we have to pace ourselves, but the indicators are we have to pace ourselves. We don't need to be quite at our best yet. We'll play our way into the tournament. There's a lot of that. Well, you can still play all right. You can still play well. You can still play with good intent. So I don't think he said, boys, deliberately go and stink the place out because we don't want to use up too much energy. But let's face it, England with the shackles off under Southgate aren't a swashbuckling team. So if he puts the shackles on ever so slightly by saying we just need to hold ourselves here, we just don't get too carried away in these first few games, you put shackles on what's already a very defensive-minded coach, or a very defensive-minded team because of the coach. I think you get what you've got so far. Now, as I said, it's misguided because we nearly went out. We were 30 seconds from going out. And if it's to conserve energy, it's not working because the players look absolutely knackered. And the performances have been really, really poor. So can we not then maybe look to play with good intent, look to play well, whatever that looks like for a Southgate team? Can we win a game and celebrate briefly with the fans at the end of the game? Wave to the fans, they have a bit of a sing-song, clap them, off you go, into the dressing room, pat each other on the back, dust yourselves down, go back to the hotel, move on to the next one. That's the coaching team's job, to temper the players if we have a big night where we do particularly well and we get through. The fans can get as carried away as they want, but I don't think it means the players have to stink the place out every game because we're trying to pace ourselves. But I think that's a factor, and we need to move away from it now because we're in the quarterfinals, and now is the time to start showing something. When I think about something else Southgate said as well in the post-match press conference on Sunday was that we're struggling because we've got sticking plasters because we have so many young players in the team, and that the team 3 years ago was really settled and we don't have that anymore, so it's difficult. The only 3 players that were mainstays 3 years ago that aren't in the squad now are Raheem Sterling, Calvin Phillips and Harry Maguire. So Harry Maguire's injured, you can't do much about that. He's a loss. As good as Mark Gay has been, Maguire's a big player for England. He's strong, he's combative, he's a leader, his presence in both boxes is good. He's got good experience, he's played with Stones for a long time, so I think that is a loss. But as far as I'm aware, I believe that Sterling and Calvin Phillips are available. So if Gareth Southgate was so intent or so upset that they're not there anymore and that we had a settled squad 3 years ago, then pick them. The whole country would disagree with you, but you're the manager, no one's holding a gun to your head. As I've indicated before, it's your team. The truth is, he's phased them out over the last 2 years in qualifying. Neither of them have been prominent for England for quite some time. And it's 2 players. It's not 6, 7 experienced players out of the squad being replaced by kids. Let's look at the squad. Jordan Pickford, 30 years old, been part of the last 4 tournaments. Kyle Walker, nearly 35 years old, been part of the last 4 tournaments. John Stones in his early 30s, been part of the last 4 tournaments. Kieran Trippier in his early 30s, been part of the last 4 tournaments. Mark Gay, first tournament, 1 player. Is he a sticking plaster or is he one of our better players so far? Midfield, Declan Rice, part of the last 3 tournaments, experienced player, mainstay under Southgate. Jude Bellingham, very young, however, very experienced, been part of the last 3 tournaments, just won the Champions League with Real Madrid. Kobbie Mainoo, there's another one, so that's 2 young players. It's his first season in football, first team football in general, so he's very new to international football. Again though, is he a sticking plaster or has he been one of our better players? Up front, Foden, young, but has played in the last 3 tournaments. Saka's in the same boat, and Harry Kane is obviously very experienced and has been around since before Southgate. So there's 2 young players there. Quite different to what Southgate said, isn't it? The other young players that could be picked, he doesn't pick. Cole Palmer's had 15, 20 minutes here or there, impressed, and then not started the next game. He's not a sticking plaster. Gordon has had 2 minutes, played really well, not played again. Eze, 15 minutes here or there. So sometimes managers put stuff out there that needs to be questioned and challenged because it's just not true. It's a narrative that he's putting out there which people could take as read. It's just not right. And it's an excuse. People make excuses when their backs are to the wall. And I think that's what he's done there. I've got 2 schools of thought going into Saturday. I am feeling more optimistic about it, and part of me thinks this is the 5th game of the tournament. At some point, you've got to play your way into form with the players that we do have in the team, even if it's despite Southgate rather than because of him. And Holland showed that the night against Romania. You can play your way into some form at some point in the tournament. The other school of thought is if you keep playing the same team, the same system, the same tactics, and giving them the same instructions, you're going to keep getting the same results. And it's going to be much more of the same. I hope that's not the case. The middle ground is, can we stodge our way through this one as well. Maybe we can, because Switzerland, for all they're probably the best team we've faced so far, they drew against Scotland, so they can't be that good. But it's getting harder to stodge your way through now, because the opposition is getting incrementally better as we go along. The mood around the nation is a weird one. Think back, I think for England fans from 2004 until 2018, we couldn't identify with the England national team. There was nothing to get behind. In 2018 in Russia, we reached the semi-final of the World Cup. It was a brilliant summer, it was sunny outside. We had something that we believed in, we had something that we could get behind. Revisionists will say we should have won the tournament, but no one expected us to get to the semi-finals. The players were seen as heroes, and there was a lot of goodwill towards England from the nation. We reconnected with our national team again. For me personally, I felt that. 3 years later, the delayed Euros, it's essentially a home tournament. We get all the way to the final, and again, people would say maybe with a different manager we could have won it, but still, we got to a final. We had some big highs along the way, beating Germany, beating Denmark in that semi-final as I mentioned, and again, lots of goodwill towards them, a lot of credit in the bank, and the players came back heroes from that, albeit losing heroes. That takes us a year later into Qatar, and again that goodwill is still there. We go into Qatar and we do all right, and we get knocked out by France. What's happening in this tournament is, I believe, first of all, the fans have had enough of Southgate, and secondly, the feeling I get is, well, we've been on this journey with you. We've watched you go from nothing and give us something back as a nation again, and we really appreciate that, and that's been great. But now we want you to win something because we think you can. And the standards we're setting are higher as fans, and that level of forgiveness and understanding and empathy towards the team isn't the same. It's not that unconditional support. It's more like you have to give us something back. And I think there's starting to be elements of toxicity amongst parts of the England fan base. On Sunday, after the game, I just was looking at my Facebook feed, and a couple of people, both City fans, whether that's important or not, I don't know, maybe it's coincidence, both City fans said during the game, I'd rather get eliminated than watch this shit. Whew, it's a big statement to make. And one of them is a really, I would say, a passionate England fan, historically. I mean, we were poor on Sunday, but when Bellingham scored that goal, I was euphoric. And if we had got knocked out, let's just say, just from a football fan's selfish point of view, for me, what football-wise, what do I have to look forward to then until the season starts in the middle of August? Pre-season friendlies for my club team, with 3/4 of the team not available because they've all been in international duty, and silly season in the media, or a quarter-final for the nation in a major tournament on a Saturday evening against a team that are more than beatable, and a chance to get better, and a chance to improve, and a chance to move on even to the semi-final. I think I'll take that option. But that narrative is out there. People would prefer us to get knocked out than continue to watch the turgid football that's on show. Those two lads won't be on their own that said that. So there's a real spiky kind of dynamic, and I keep trying to kind of think, has it been like this before? And I look back to World Cup Italia 90, obviously seen as one of the great England tournaments, but Republic of Ireland, we were awful in that game. Holland, we did really well and got a draw. We're a bit unlucky not to win that game. Egypt, last game of the group, won by a set piece, awful, scraped through the group with 5 points. Knockout round, Belgium, last kick of the game, again from a set piece, we score, uninspiring. Quarter final, Cameroon, plucky underdogs, we scrape through 3-2 by hook or by crook. 2 dodgy penalties given to Gary Lineker, not brilliant. Germany, semi-final, the team that went on to win it, and we played really well that night. We were brave, we looked like we had a structure. It was our best performance of the tournament. We got knocked out. So the team go home, heroes. They had an open top bus when they arrived home. A bit embarrassing for me, but there we go. we played really, 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 really well in one game in that tournament. So it's not always sunshine and roses. The difference in that tournament was Gascoigne. He lit the tournament up. It was his breakthrough moment. Everyone was talking about him. I thought coming into this tournament, could it be Bellingham and or Foden that perhaps does that for us? And whilst Bellingham's goal was a goal for the ages on Sunday and potentially could be a tournament defining goal if we continue to progress through the tournament, but has he had the impact of a Gascoigne in 1990, a Michael Owen 1998, a Rooney 2004? Not yet. It's only the quarter final. If we keep going, he could take it from here, and I could revise that by 10 days' time. Let's hope. But right now, that's not happened. He's a match winner, but he hasn't been that wow factor, and neither's Foden, despite trying his best to make things happen. So listen, we're in a quarter final of a major tournament, and we've been really poor so far, and it's nothing but a hunch, but I've just got a feeling we're going to do better on Saturday. We're going to play better. There's going to be a better feel to it. They've had longer together. They've had 6 days rest. I don't want to over-explain it because it's just a feeling I've got, and I hope we can get through. If we get through, we're in the semi-finals, and you're one step away from history again, getting to a final. So we've got to get behind the team. We've got to go into Saturday, as I say, a Saturday evening quarter-final. It's a dream. It's a dream for England fans. So let's get behind the team, and except we've not played well, but hopefully we can move forward from here on in. It's coming home.